and welcome to the ROCKATX online worship experience. You're getting ready to experience God on another level. Whatever you're seeking from God for your life is available for you as you praise, hear the word, and transform your situation. While you're worshiping with us, feel free to interact with our online ministers in the chat and share this broadcast with your friends and family so they can join you online. Also, make sure you subscribe and follow the ROCKATX on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram to stay connected to all the Rock is doing. Now, shake off the worries of the week and get ready to give God some praise. Service will begin soon.
This message is not meant for everybody. If you find yourself disengaged at a certain point, you may have a right to be, because maybe this message is not written to you. Apologetically, the thought and the concepts that I'm going to talk about over the next couple of weeks are only for those who operate a certain kind of way. If you don't operate a certain kind of way, then this particular argument or ideology might be a little frustrating to you. It might be a little overwhelming to you. So I apologize in advance. If you have your life together and you're doing well and spiritually, economically, personally, everything's clicking for you, this message is not for you. If your family, your marriage, your mentality, if you're in a good state of mental health and you're waking up and you are kicking butt and taking names, your career is taking off, and every door that you touch is swinging open, and there's a golden trail to every spot, this message not for you. I'm making sense. So I apologize in advance. Okay? All right. Now this message is for the rebellious. This entire series is for that belligerent personality that kicked down the door, that nasty side, that part of you. It's not for the faint of heart. I'm going to tell you a story. Once again, I'm going to have to apologize for the story in advance because y'all have not prayed for y'all's pastor, evidently. I was in a city meeting several days ago, and I was in the meeting, and I was representing a local entity, and talking about a matter of that the entity felt was extremely important, and so I understood that my assignment, and so I was engaging and arguing the argument of this particular entity, because it was that day it was my assignment to represent them and to talk about some things that had happened and some studies that had been done, and why the work of this agency was important. Yes, so I sat down and I appeared before the dignitaries of the city, and I testified and I talked about how important this entity was and the work that it had been doing, and how there needed to be some other considerations about this entity and everything else. And so I had my time and I shared, and then after we spoke, they thanked us, and then we were dismissed. So I walk out of the space and I walk into the hallway. This person who I've never met, and clearly they didn't know me. They were like, I've never met you. And I was like, respectfully, no, ma'am. And they said, well, you're representing this entity. And I said, yes, I am here representing this entity. And I am speaking on behalf of this entity. And I'm talking about the work that this entity does, and talking about how increased partnerships, blah, 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 should be awarded this entity. And so she looks at me, and she was like, I should just cuss you out. And I should just cuss you out because I don't like this entity, and I don't like blah, 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 and you don't understand me because I will cuss a person out in a minute and everything else. And she's like, and I feel like cussing you out. So I looked at her. And I did. I looked at her, and I looked at her with the same look on my face, and I said, well, you can feel free. I said, but no, I give better than I get. I said, you go first. But when you're done, it's my turn. And I don't want you to prosecute me for verbal assault, because that's what's going to happen. Because I got this side of me that's kind of holy hood. And I understand something. I told you, I apologize in advance for the story. This message in this series is for the holy hood people. The people who just might, I don't know, but it's like I could pray for you, or I could Nehemiah 13 and 21 you. What? Nehemiah 13 and 21, what's that? I said, what? Nehemiah 13 and 21. I thought I'd get a shirt one day. I said, I could Nehemiah 13 and 21 you if you want. Nehemiah 13 and 21 is so interesting because it's Nehemiah, he told the enemies, he says, if y'all come this way again, he says, I'm going to lay hands on you. That's what the Bible says. Some of y'all said, my God, I told you this message was for the rebellious. And I understand that contextually, but I just love the text because he says, come this way at me again. He said, I'm going to lay hands on you. And the Bible says, and they never did that again. Because they understood. Nehemiah, like, I ain't no priest. I ain't working in the tabernacle. Understand that. That ain't what I do. Now, so this message is for the non-choir boys. The not good church girls. I'm making sense. It's interesting because when you look at plantation life, there were two types of individuals that were enslaved. And there was one type that, as they were doing the work and enduring the shame and the hostility, in the back of their minds, they were plotting to overthrow. And then there was another type that as they were serving and doing the work, were thankful and appreciative for the presence of the plantation. It's two types. I don't know which one you are, but this message is for that individual who was plotting and planning and looking. I was talking to a mentor of mine who's done some great work in the city, great work historically in the city, and he mentioned to me, and I was talking to him and I was asking him how do we do some of the things we want to do and how he's done the things that he's done, and he says the thing about you, Moody, he says I can see you like me. He says some people are happy to be on the plantation. He says some people are happy to be around the plantation because at least they get some of the remnants of the goods. He says, and then there's that third kind that will burn the whole thing down. This message Am I making sense? Making sense. Now, what do you mean? Why is this important? Why is this important? Because I've got to lay some groundwork with you real quick. When we talk about, Dr. Moody, why are you talking about being rebellious and anarchy? Aren't these negative terminology that, rebellion, is negative in the Bible, and anarchy is seen as a negative. How could you now? What are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. Are you trying to? Is there another Bible you're looking at? Where'd you come from? I want to argue for just a second. A couple of things to help you understand where I come from. Now, when we look at the idea of systems, somebody says systems. Now, systems are interesting because systems, I defined it as this: it's a constructed group of processes. A system is not a unintentional, but it's an intentional group of processes designed to produce an intended outcome. Yes. So when I think about a system, that means that somebody has orchestrated a set of processes that will yield an output. A system. So understand this. You don't if you don't know what's going to happen with your budget at the end of the month, you don't have a system. You just have a reaction. Systems means that I'm going to take this, and this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and I anticipate at the end of this journey or the end of this process, I'm going to get this outcome, and I'm going to get it consistently. That's why it's called a system. Am I making sense? Now, Dr. Moody, what do you mean? It should be. I'm tired of arguing about the realities of life as people of God, women, people of color, people who may not be seen as affluent, and people who will say, you know what, you need to try harder. I'm not absolving people of trying. But I think that we have to start being aware and acknowledge that there is clearly a system that is constructed that yields an outcome. How Dr. Moody, how do you know it? Have you ever taken your child to school and you go to talk to the teacher about your child, your grandchild, and their first response to you as a concerned parent is, I'm so surprised that your child is doing so well. I'm so surprised that your child is doing so well. Okay, I'll park that for a second. Have you ever been in a meeting or talking to someone and they look at you and and they say, my goodness, you speak so well. You're so articulate. And you're like, in your brain, you're like, it's, man, that was a great example you gave. I was so surprised to hear that kind of argument coming from you. Why is that important? Because that means that in the back of their minds, they had an intended outcome. And they're thrown off because you're talking regular English. They're shocked that your child is in the class and competing with everybody in the class or exceeding everybody in the class. They're thrown off that your kid is good in math. I can't believe they're doing so well. Well, what were you looking for? That means that there was a system that was constructed that is designed to produce an outcome. How is it in our city that we represent, as black people, we represent 6% of the population, but 33 to 40% of the homeless? How? Do we have a not pay rent gene? How is it that even in America, forget about Texas, we represent 12% of the population, but across the states, we are 33 to 38% of the prison population? If we can do this, that will give us this, and if we do that, that will give us, if we do this to them, that will do this to them, and then if that happens, then they'll be over here, and then we know what we can do. We can keep working it until finally we get them right here. There are systems that are constructed. Now, I want you to understand this. Every kingdom, every society, not just in America, every society has operated by systems. And the systems are always designed with an outcome in mind, no matter where you see it. I'm making sense. Africa, Asia, it doesn't matter what, America, globally. When you understand systems, then what you understand is when this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Why do all the factories end up on our side of the highway? Somebody will tell you, for jobs. But the problem is, we still have the highest unemployment rate. So that's illogical. But is it interesting that by the factories, you can look at factories and you can look at things like asthma and cancer and premature births, everything else, and right around these areas, everything else, there is environmental stuff that's happening. Then why are we having all the premature babies? Because there is a system. I want you to understand something. Latino world, black world, you look at the stats, you say, wait a minute. This message in this series is for the rebellious. If your life is good, that you're not going to like this. Like that. Am I making sense? So that means this. I want you to understand this, that the reason why you have the mental health problems you have is because it is system-oriented. The reason why you have the financial problems you have is because it is systems-oriented. The reason why you have the relational problems you have is because it's system-oriented. The reason why you live where you do is because it's system-oriented. And you know when you break out, because when you break out and you end up someplace wrong, they're like, how did you get over here? They're like, how did you get high over here? How did you get into this school? What happened? Who told you we was over here? Have you walked into a place and everybody looking like, and you're like, why is everybody looking at me? Because they're saying that you should not be here. Some kind of way to system. Making sense. So Dr. Moody, why do you call this the anticipation of anarchy? Go to
Thank you for worshiping with us today. If you're in need of prayer or someone to talk to, our online ministers are available for you right now in the chat. And we invite you to join us again for our extraordinary worship services every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., Sunday at 4 p.m., and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central, where Dr. Moody teaches how to understand the Bible and you can get your biblical questions answered. We look forward to connecting with you and ask that you subscribe to The Rock ATX on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected to all The Rock is doing. Also, you can connect with us through our website at TheROCKATX.org. Again, thank you for worshiping with us, and be blessed.